welcome to this thing called life. I'm so excited for today's episode. I'm so excited to be here with everyone, and I hope that this episode just resonates with you. This is something that I was dealing with, and I just had it very heavy on my heart. And I just think that it's something that we all go through and we all get lost in. Or not, we don't get lost in, but we lose it. We lose our identity because we tend to put our identity in our jobs and how much money we make and whether or not we're successful, whether we're not in a relationship. We're constantly being pushed this narrative that if we don't have all of the above, then we're nothing. But when we have a relationship with Jesus, it's hard, right? It's hard to kind of like figure this life out when you're being shown and told all kinds of things, right? So much around us is influenced by status. And I feel like it's gotten a little better nowadays, but at the same time, we're still struggling with the fact that we have to just appease everyone and we have to do certain things to put off this appearance. And like, it's about, what everyone can see. Like they can see how we're living. Like, what are we doing? What are we wearing? What do we have? It's all about that. And it's like this constant chase of like the next best thing. And I feel like for me, that's what was happening. I was chasing all these things that were filling me and giving me my identity, making me who I was. When you introduce yourself to someone, right away they're like, what do you do? And so that defines you. Like, oh yeah, my job. Like, that's what I do. And this is me. Like, this is me. That's my job. But that's not you. That's not who you are. Like, who are you? Is your characteristics. That's your identity, like who you are in God, God was already working in me. And I was at a point where I had said, okay, God, I trust you. Like I was getting closer to God. I wanted to get closer to him and I wanted to have a real relationship with him. But I also wanted everything else. So that's something that I've been dealing with, or God's been dealing with me, is like trusting in him and learning to be utterly dependent on him, knowing that my value is in him. And it's hard because I'm human and I live in a world that is telling me, it's all about where I am and like who I know and what I'm doing and what I'm driving and all of that. But as a person who has a relationship with Jesus, it's upside down, right? It's completely opposite. So we have to kind of reflect and like step back and be like, okay, what's going on, And that's what happened to me. I was humbled and I had to come to realize that I was a prideful person and maybe a little entitled. I had this sense of entitlement and it came off in my demeanor. It came off in my speech. And I didn't even realize it until recently, which is crazy. I came to a place where I was broken. I was, the epitome of that word, broken. I had nothing. I had gone through so much where I literally lost everything. The rug got pulled out from under me and my status was no longer valid. Like it was gone. Everything was gone. Everything was taken. And it's like now my eyes have been opened and I'm realizing like, oh man, I was really, really prideful. I was really entitled. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was living this life that I had wanted, that I had pictured, that I had journaled about, like most of us do, and then to all of a sudden no longer have that, it brought a lot of heartache. It brought a lot of hardship. It brought a lot of turmoil, a lot of darkness, to be honest. So I've been on this roller coaster journey, but in hindsight, it has felt like it's what's led me to my purpose. And it's like I had to realize it's not all about me. Like my life has a purpose, and it's not just about me and what I want and where I want to be and who I want to be married to and what I want to do and where I want to travel to. Like that's great stuff, but that's not what this life is about. You know, like Jesus has to be number one in our lives. So that's something that's been coming into play in my life. And it's like I feel like Jesus has been like, where are you? Where are we? Where is our relationship? And because I had lost focus, it was completely about me and my desires. And part of that has to do with the fact that I felt like, okay, well, I already gave you my life. I gave you my teenage years and my early 20s. I gave you that. So I really haven't gotten anything out of it. And that's not true. Like, I got a lot out of it, but I stepped away from God and I didn't even realize I had stepped away. I just, got really busy in school and got really busy working that I just kind of slowly but surely stopped going to Bible studies, stopped going to services, stopped getting involved. And when you're no longer involved in that, like what else do you fill your time with? When you're not, of course, in school or working or whatever it may be, or taking care of a family, whatever it may be, what starts to consume your life? So in that time, I went through a lot. I went through really hard things that I would never want anyone to go through. And that's not to say that they haven't made me who I am and they haven't given me more empathy and resiliency and have grown me as a person, because they definitely has. Um, but yeah, I'm in a place right now where I'm realizing that I have to get back to the basics. I have to get back to my first love and back to who I was when I was walking with God. And it's not about my status, and it's not about who I'm dating, and it's not about what I'm driving. It's not about that. It's not about all these societal pressures and like norms that we've been consumed with. And not only consumed with, it's like they're literally it's pushed on us, this narrative, right? That if you're not here by a certain age, then what are you doing? Like, who are you? Like, oh gosh, like you're such a loser, you know? And that sucks. Like, it shouldn't be like that, but it is like that. That's the society that we live in right now, right? It's determined our identity, and it's created these people. And by these people, I mean myself as well, who are, we're just so selfish and we're so self consumed and we're so entitled. And we have to remember, like, when you have a relationship with God, because that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to people who have a relationship with God. And if you don't have a relationship with God, then, I hope that you do. I hope that you come to know him, because he's amazing and he's such a good, good father. And he is just so good. I mean, there's so much I can get into, but when we have a relationship with him, like, what are we doing? Like, who are we doing it for? Who are we doing the things that we do for? Right? And most of the time we can say it's ourselves. It's not God. It's for our own pleasure. It's for our own satisfaction. And it's definitely something that shouldn't be like that, right? So we have to come back to him. We're constantly looking for the next best thing. And we have to get back to the one thing, which is Jesus, and ask ourselves, like, is my life an example for someone else? Am I bringing someone closer to Jesus? And if you're doing that through your job or whatever it may be, that's great. That's really great. We just cannot lose focus and make it all about ourselves and like where we're at. Um, I started to read the Bible do a plan of like read the Bible in a year. I haven't done that in so long, since I was like in middle school. And I thought, you know what? It's really important that I get back into the Bible and like just actually reading it for what it is, like in its entire context, like not just taking little verses and like applying them to my life and like devotionals. So I was reading the Bible, and I believe the person leading the plan said like was talking about the Israelites and how God had put them in a position, like a good position, right? And they were in a place that was amazing. But they lost sight of that, and they were kind of like, "Oh, look where we are. Like this is so awesome. Like this is great." And they lost sight of God, and they started focusing on themselves. And they were disobedient, and they were prideful. They were incredibly prideful. The Israelites were so prideful when they were being led through the Exodus. And that hit me. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like that was me. Not to say I'm not prideful anymore, like, but that was me. I was incredibly prideful. Like God had blessed me so much in my career, with my friends. Like I had amazing friends. I was living in the best place. I had a great car, all this stuff. And like I said in the beginning, it was all pulled from me. And so I feel like God was like, no, 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 no. Don't forget why you're here and how you got here. Like, yes, you worked, you did hard work, but who put you in the sight of those who can bring you up, you know? It wasn't myself. Like, I didn't just put myself in that position that I was in. So we, we have to just get back to the basics and just remember that, you know, we can be climbing that social ladder, right? And be where we're at. And for me, I was really close. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I am not exactly where I want to be, but I'm pretty high up there. And this is great. And then the rug was pulled from under me. And it's hard. It's hard when you reach that place in your life and you're like, I'm so close to making it. And all of a sudden you're back to nothing. And then you realize, okay, everything can just be gone like that. And that gives you some perspective. It really makes you realize, like, oh man, not only things can be taken from me, like relationships, people can be taken from me so fast, you know? So, where are my priorities? Where are our priorities? What are we living for? I was in a very dark place after that had happened, after everything was taken from me and I was back to zero, basically. I fell really, really deeply into this really bad place. And, you know, I thought, okay, well, I don't have this job anymore. I don't have this relationship anymore. I don't have this, and this anymore. So what am I here for? Like, what's my life even worth? Nothing. And I literally wanted to end my life. It was the scariest time, and those thoughts were incredibly scary and dark. You know, I'm really thankful that I had my family to support me in that time and like be there for me and pray with me. Um, Maybe I'll go into it later. I mean, I don't know. It was really, really dark. And I'm just super thankful for my family. And I can't even believe I'm talking about this, but that just goes to show like I had placed my identity in my status, in my finances, in my relationship. And when I lost that, I was devastated. I felt like there's no more purpose here on this life, like earth. There's no more purpose, you know? And like, if you're feeling like that, I want you to know that you are worth it, that you are so important and your life has a purpose. And it's not about you. Like, it's not about where you work or how much money you make or who you're dating or what car you're driving. that does not matter. Like, seriously, that does not matter. Your life is important. Your life is impacting people, whether you know it or not. And we cannot let status, we cannot let how many Instagram followers, how many YouTube followers, how many whatever, you cannot let those superficial things determine your worth and determine your identity. We have to get past that and remember, like, my life is worth it. Like, Jesus paid a price on that cross for my life, for something way bigger than me. And we have to just like get over ourselves, really, and like up that pride and repent and be like, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what I said. You know exactly what you've done, what you've said, and you can come before him like honest and be like, where do you want me to go? Like, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? So I encourage you to get closer to God. If you stepped away, I encourage you to just come to him. Like I said, like raw, like be real before him. Don't put on a show. Just come to him and tell him that you messed up, and he will open his arms to you. His arms are already open to you. There is nothing, Bible says, there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. But obviously we have to come with a repentant heart. Like, we can't just be like, yeah, I did this, like, and don't care. No, you have to really repent. Come before him. His arms are open to you, and he loves you so much. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, and this may not be the longest podcast, but it's okay. I just want you to remember that your identity is not in who or what you have. Your identity doesn't come from any of those things. Your identity comes from Christ. And we have to trust. We have to trust in him. We have to trust that he has good things for us, that he's going to lead us, and he is going to do whatever it is that he wants to do with us, to use our life for him, for his kingdom, right? Yeah. So I just want you to know that your testimony is powerful. I don't even know who you are, but I'm sure that it's powerful, and I'm sure that you have such a calling on your life. And that's why the enemy just tries to bring us down and attack us and confuse us and lie to us and tell us, like, you're not worth it. Look, like, you don't have this, you don't have that, or like, oh, you're such a loser. Like, we get so many thoughts that bombard us that are lies, constantly comparing ourselves on social media and to people in our lives that are around us. And that can make you get into a really dark place. And so we have to just block out the lies and fill ourselves with the word and get close to God and align ourselves to him. Because that's the only way. Like, that's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to truly understand where we're supposed to be, is when we're aligned to him, when we're dependent on him, when we trust in him. And all you have to say is like, I'm willing, God, like, I'm willing, like, move me where you want to move me. Like, I trust you. And I know that's such a big deal. That's something that he's been dealing with me, is trust, is how to really, really, truly trust. Because for someone who's been so independent, to have to trust in someone, it's a big deal. And I've been told this so many times, like, you're like, okay, God, I trust you. And I'll only give him like one hand, and the other hand's like behind my back, like holding the rest of whatever it may be. I do want to talk about that more. And we're going to talk about that in like another episode, but just know that he is everything. He is everything. And in him, you are going to find fulfillment. We're not going to find fulfillment in jobs, in cars, in women, in men, in going out and partying and drugs and alcohol. You're not going to find fulfillment in that. All you're going to find is a temporary high in a sense. You're going to find a temporary pleasure, and that's it. And then you're going to go get up the next day and be like, hey, what's next? And do the same thing over again. Trust me. Like, and it's so funny because I remember hearing people talk about that all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, yes, like whatever. I was a pretty good person, like or innocent person. Like I didn't go out and all that stuff until later in my 20s. And it's like, it's so true. It's so true. So we're going to have that conversation at a later time. But I'm so happy that you are here. I hope that this resonated with you. And I hope that you know who you are and that you know that your thoughts are not your thoughts. Like, ask God, like, God, renew my mind. Renew my mind and let my thoughts be aligned with your thoughts. So yeah, I'm excited for what's to come. And I hope that this was something that helped you. So stay tuned because we're going to have fun guests and a lot of people sharing. Like, this is just raw conversation. See you guys in the next one.